Hello everyone, this is Jamie Star with New World News Network. Make sure you check the links below for all my other endeavors. And on this episode, I'm going to get into this controversy that popped out about Alex Jones mentioning the idea that Beyonce is part of a CIA NFL plot to start a civil war or a race war in this country. I wouldn't say it's as much a civil war or a race war because you have plenty of moronic white males like the person the internet has dubbed as Aid Skrillex, Carl the Cuck, Trigglypuff, all these other people as part of it. But it's definitely a Marxist revolution. Now, I didn't pull any articles, but there's been articles over the year about Homeland Security and the government working its way into football. That's why they can have the fighter jets fly over. There's why there's so much rah-rah American patriotism worked into it. I shouldn't have to prove it. Anyone who watches a football game, you can see it. So, Alex Jones came out and said this, as you can see. Everyone covered it and everything. And I downloaded Beyonce's Lemonade. I've been meaning to watch it and to give a full insight on it. I know it's taken me a while. It's not really a new issue anymore. But I really felt like I should let the dust settle, analyze it, and then give my complete overview on it. So, MTV, who Alex Jones named as part of the problem, of course comes out and tries to save face. MTV is completely a tool of social engineering at this point. If you doubt it, you would only need to look at their Decoded series with Francesca Ramsey or whatever, where, it's these fucking crazy videos where, like, they'll say, in defense of Black History Month, when someone says we should get rid of Black History Month, it should just be a generalized history of everyone that well encompasses everything. And I agree. People wouldn't be so divided if we didn't put all these other terms: African American, Latin American, Asian American. How about your American first and everything else second? And then people would have something to join them together. It was Christianity and Catholicism that joined people together to end slavery, but now people don't have anything to join them together. Except whatever is the political correct stance of the day. So, Alex Jones, Beyonce comments trigger battle for the fate of the world. And as you can see, like, they'll say a little bit in here. This week, radio host and conspiracy theorist extraordinaire Alex Jones turned the eye of Providence to the wallet of the throne, alleging that Beyonce's Lemonade was funded by the CIA as an attempt to start a race war. Quote, "We see Beyonce get up there at the Super Bowl and do these anti-cop riot videos, and then you understand that the Super Bowl on Fox and Viacom MTV are the most established organs there are, and admittedly the most hooked up with the CIA and the criminals that have hijacked the Defense Department that are engaging." And again, this has all come out. So, of course, there's this mocking. Yesterday, this 100% coherent, 100% credible news was just a drop in the pond of world affairs. But given the devotion of both the Beehive and the tinfoil hats who follow Jones, the ripple effect of this event are sure to be profound. Will our future be a utopian paradise filled with lemonade, black girl magic, and free concert tickets? Or are we doomed to a one-way ticket to InfoWars conspiracy madness? We here at the massively hooked up MTV used our connections to forecast where this fight would lead, and the CIA's time travel unit hit us up with documents from the year 2066, presumably written by a town crier, also massively hooked up to the CIA 50 years after the dimension-altering clash of these two titans. So, of course, they're just making a joke out of it because they were identified as part of the problem. And again, you can look into MTV's ties, who they're owned by, everything else. This is all just out there at this point. But Most of the modern media will not talk about anything current or relevant. This is also part of the problem with things being classified. Like, it always cracks me up whenever people, oh, conspiracy theorists. And it's like, okay, but what do you call things that are classified and national security? It sort of seems like it's a handful of people doing something that they don't want everyone else to know about. They use the guise of government to conceal it, and voila, conspiracy. You know, even the term conspiracy theorist, it has come out after the Watergate Commission that they were going to push that term as a way to discredit people. Conspiracy theorist is a CIA coined pop culture term to just dismiss people. But when you have someone like Alex Jones who has come out and said things, and it has come out to be right so many times, you can't knock him. He knows what he's talking about. And for anyone who wants to say, oh, well, Alex Jones, he only knows it because he's a CIA shill himself, this and that, more reason to listen to him, because that means what he's talking about is coming direct from the source. So people who try to discredit him by that, oh, well, he works for the CIA, well, then you should listen to him. You just shouldn't take to heart what he's saying, and you shouldn't make too many of your life decisions off after it. I tell people who bring up this issue, someone commented on one of my previous issues, what do I think about Alex Jones? And I'll say this about anyone, Glenn Beck, Alex Jones, any of them. Stop looking for a political Jesus, because these people are news pundits. They are giving you the news. They are not giving you the truth, the one and only truth, like it's the word of God, but they are giving you a different perspective on issues, a perspective that the mainstream media is not interested in giving you, because the mainstream media is run by CIA. This has all come out in congressional hearings. So, MTV tries to save face. Let's see, where are we going from here? So, sorry for all the coughing and everything. Here are articles that everyone's fine with covering because it's all older stuff concerning the Cold War. But how the CIA secretly funded abstract expressionism during the Cold War. Considering the possibility of a truly proletarian art, the great English literary critic William Ebsen once wrote, "The reason an English audience can enjoy Russian propagandist films is the propaganda is too often or is too remote to be annoying. Perhaps this is why American artists and bohemians have so often taken to the political iconography of far-flung regimes in ways both romantic and ironic. One nation's tedious socialist regime, tedious socialist realism, sorry, I'm seeing words that aren't there, is another's radical exotica. But do U.S. cultural exports have the same effect? One need only look at the success of our most banal branding overseas to answer the affirmative, yet no one would think to add abstract expressionist paintings to a list that includes fast food and Walt Disney products. Walt Disney, also a propagandist branch of the government. They get all sorts of DARPA subsidiaries to try out different technologies, biometrics at their amusement parks. They made propaganda for the Nazis. They've now taken over Marvel, so you'll see this propaganda start to seep its way into the Marvel films. However, I'm going to do a quick little review video on Captain America Civil War, talking about a point I think that movie makes that's really good. Captain American movies have good messages in them. I can't find the bad ones, but maybe I'm just not seeing it. Anyway, nevertheless, the work of such artists as Jackson Pollock, Mark Rothko, and Willem de Kooning wound up as part of a CIA program during the height of the Cold War aimed at promoting American ideals abroad. The artists themselves were completely unaware that their work was being used as propaganda. And here's one of the other things that I've mentioned before. Beyonce is not Beyonce Knowles. Beyonce is Beyonce Inc. Beyonce copyright symbol. She is a brand. She has managers, PR, public relations, writers, producers. I mean, there is a team that brings you Beyonce. And it's not unrealistic to think at least one or two members of that team are working for the CIA. Anderson Cooper, newscasters you see have CIA connections. Listen to Dave Chappelle talk about why the Chappelle Show ended. And he says There was an episode, there was someone there, a writer or something like that. He doesn't get very specific, and you really gotta wonder if it's your show, the Chappelle Show. How do you not know who's on your writing team? Who is this random straggler that just showed up recommending you wear a dress? And that's part of the reason why the show ended. They wanted him to cross dress, he refused to, and end of show. So, on what agents call Long Leash, they participate in several exhibitions secretly organized by the CIA, such as New American Painting, which visited major European cities in the 1958s and included modern primitive works such as Surrealist William Bazito, I'm not even going to try, um, and Tournament by Adolf Gottlieb, above. Sorry if I'm ruining these names. So in the 1950s and 60s, the great majority of Americans disliked or even disdained modern art. President Truman summed up the popular views when he said, "If that's art, then I'm a Hottentot." As for the artists themselves, many were ex-communist, barely acceptable in the America of the McCarthy era, and certainly not the sort of people normally like to receive U.S. government backing. Why then did they receive the backing? This Philanthism combined with Joseph McCartney's hysterical denunciations of all that was avant-garde or unorthodox was deeply embarrassing. It discredited the idea that America was a sophisticated, culturally enriched democracy. The one-way relationship between modern painters and the CIA, only recently confirmed by former case officer Donald Jameson, supposedly enabled the agency to make the work of the social Soviet realist appear, in Jameson's words, even more stylized and more rigid and confined than it was. For a longer explanation, read up the full article at The Independent. It's kind of story Don DeLeo could cook up. So, basically it was to try to say that, there's the crazy socialists and it's all very confined and within the rigid guidelines, and America is so liberal and free expression and everything, and all they end up doing is making shitty art. William Epson goes on to say that a Tory audience subjected to Tory propaganda of the same intensity as Russian imports would be extremely bored. If he is correct, it's likely that the average true believer socialist in Europe was already bored silly by Soviet-approved artwork. What surprises in these revelations is that the avant-garde works that so radically altered the American art world and enraged the average congressman and taxpayer were co-opted and collectively by suave U.S. intelligence officers like so many Shepherd Ferry posters. So, whereas the Soviets and everything were approving these realist paintings of Lenin right there and everything, the nonsense art of Pollock and stuff was equally being approved by the American government and funded by it. And this has not stopped. That's the other thing. As we can see, I actually pulled the article. Sorry, I'm clicking all over here. Again, every news source has covered this. Independent covered it, and they're basically just reprintings of the same story. Gizmodo, how the CIA spent millions turning modern art into a Cold War arsenal. CIA spent millions weaponizing modern art against Russia. Modern art was a CIA weapon. Now, if you go to nowadays, what has it always been rumored that is the new CIA weapon? To build a big prison population, to destroy culture, whether it's fashion or anything else. It's rap music. It's hip hop. It's the urban culture, and people have always believed that the CIA has their teeth synced into it. There's a video going around. I wish I pulled it for this, of ODB from the Wu-Tang Clan, him and Method Man sitting, and they're talking about people being brainwashed and mind controlled by songs, and they're really awful songs with horrible messages, and ODB just comes out and says it's the government. It's the government brainwashing people. It's the government mind controlling people. That's why you hear these catchy little parts in Beyonce's song. Yeah, I slay. 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 I mean, just over and over ad nauseum. That's the brainwashing. I had a music teacher when I was in high school tell me if there's ever something just being repeated ad nauseum, then that is the mind control part. That is it being worked in. The Beatles. Looked up the movie The Winged Beetle. The Beatles were an MI5 band. They were there isn't an organic thing about the Beatles whatsoever. They were military intelligence start to fucking finish, and you can see it. You can see it in the art. Once you know what you're looking for, you can see it. And that's why John Lennon could come out and say, the Beatles will be bigger than Jesus, because he knew that they were a tool to be used against religion, religious traditions, to start a revolution that would overthrow those old ideas, and that they were being backed by the British government, MI5, military intelligence, so on and so forth. He wasn't making some crazy prediction. He knew what they were doing. He knew they were pawns in a much bigger game. So, you have all of this going on. Again, it's all been in the past and everything like that. But here's an article that shows why Alex Jones is completely right in making a statement like that, assuming about Beyonce, who is tied in at the White House. And I've said, fucking Beyonce and the Obamas are not sitting around talking about what they use to flavor their collard greens. They're talking about government programs and operations. Exclusive taxpayers fund legal group with role in rap video about killing police officers. Now, if you're familiar with mainstream music and everything like that, some of the names may sound familiar. The Obama administration and Justice Department funneled at least $1.5 million into grants to a New York legal aid group featuring in a new video that depicts two young black men aiming handguns at a white police officer. Some may find the lyrics eerily similar to the social media postings of the man accused of shooting and killing two New York police officers execution style in Brooklyn. The video for Hands Up, which was a narrative, it wasn't part of the story. And also, a lot of these things, I did a video and I took it down, where a lot of the sayings they were just saying, no justice, no peace, hands up, don't shoot, Black Lives Matter, if you run them backwards, they say other things. There are things like cries for help, and I recommend anyone, we all have the technology in our phones and everything like that. Take all of the fucking catchy chants that you hear being said at these things and reverse them, and you will audibly hear other sayings, and that's again why they're sticking and bouncing back and forth in people's heads. The video for Hands Up, which also shows a white police officer gunning down a black motorist wearing a hoodie, contains lyrics suggesting revenge for much publicized deaths of black men in confrontations with police. Credited to rappers Uncle Murder and Mano, who are two like B-list rappers. None of them are top notch, and that's the thing. If they're funding two B-list rappers to do this shit, you better fucking believe they're funding Beyonce at the Super Bowl. That performance was okayed by the government. Among the lyrics to Hands Up for Mike Brown and Sean Bell, cop to get killed, cause I'm black, police think they got the right to shoot me, no jail time, their punishment is death duty, by any means necessary, let's make them respect us. So you see, the government, who the police are the bottom layer workers and enforcers of government policy, are being targeted by the government. Of course, the conspiracy aspect of this is that it's to eventually replace the police with RoboCop-type cyborgs. MIT already has them. They will be rolled out. The police will be sitting at the station in a VR thing like you're going to be playing video games in 10 years, and they will be policing the streets like it's a goddamn video game. So they're funding this shit, the government, and, you know, it's so crazy that anyone would even doubt this stuff. The organization, which was founded in 1997, boosts some high-powered corporate lawyers on its boards and enjoyed a steady flow of taxpayer dollars since President Obama took office in 2009. In 2012, Bronx defenders also received $350,000 from Justice Department's Brian Grant Group, according to data at usspending.gov. It received 300,000 grant in total. Yeah, all the numbers. So, these groups, the funding, the group asked for its video released on December 3rd to be pulled. As of today, it remained on the website of its producer, World Star Hip Hop, and on YouTube. Uncle Murder is stage name for New York rapper Leonard Green, who was signed to a major label deal by Jay-Z. So, again, and the even crazier thing is, then you have, of course, these videos going on about, Choppa in the trunk for Donald Trump and videos like that. The left, of course, claims that those are legitimate protest songs where you can just rap about killing people. As much as Azalea Banks popped up recently saying some things I agree with, even she, was talking online about gang raping Sarah Palin, and thank God Sarah Palin is fighting back over it, because you cannot have this go on. You have wild censorship going online of people like Lauren Southern, and everything, while this one side can seemingly say whatever they want, and there's no repercussions. It's instead glorified, like it's legitimate, or it's not just calls to violence. And that's part of what Beyonce is doing. And everything Beyonce does is so well calculated. I'm not going to get into them, but here you can see, like, the articles that were coming up around Lemonade being released were all Piers Morgan and Matt McGorry got into it over Black Girl Magic and Beyonce and how she feels about people being shot by cops. And again, it's so crazy because Beyonce has private police escorts to and from events and everything. And I do completely agree with those cops that were like, hey, we're not going to help Beyonce. Now, that's a problem, too, that people can privately hire police. I work across the street from a diamond fucking shop that on certain nights they stay open extra late and they privately hire police to secure the place. So, you have that. There's Piers Morgan, Piers Morgan's problem with Beyonce goes beyond her blackness. And that's the other problem, is that this race card gets used as a bypass, where it's like, you cannot criticize a black woman in this day and age without someone thinking it is solely because she is a black woman. Black on one hand, woman on the other, therefore sexist, racist. I mean, it's, if I mention anything about Michelle Obama, if I mention anything about Beyonce, oh, you're just hating on her because she's a black woman. You cannot criticize a black woman in this day and age, and it makes me think about the stories I'd hear about how the black women were the ones driving the slaves. It was the bigger Aunt Jemima types that were the ones standing over all the other slaves doing the work, keeping them in line, because you don't want to question a black woman. We're right back to that. Except this time it's a mental plantation. Beyonce, though, and this is, again, how you can tell this is all formulated, she started selling merch at $45 a pop, saying, boycott Beyonce, Beehive Boys. I mean, this, like a phone case that says it. I believe there's a shirt also that said it. So again, she is trying to capitalize on all this stuff. She knows goddamn well what she's doing, or her team does at least. So, especially when you have, you just need one CIA person behind her, them linked at the other media, and all of them do their thing, and they can turn her actions into the fucking weeks long of nonsense. I mean, you even had it where Iggy Azalea came out and said fucking, just referring to all white people with the name Becky with the good hair is racist. You can't just be making statements like that, whatever. So ridiculous. Beyonce is a pawn for the CIA. I mean, if she's not, they should. Like, it would be a great investment. Like, because she's obviously a fucking tool, and she easily can propagandize and manipulate millions of people. So, if she's not a CIA asset, she would be, and that's what they would look like. So,